Look at the stats. 5 out of the top 6 televised rated games on the WNBA this year all involve Caitlin Clark. The only one that doesn't was a second half of a doubleheader in which Caitlin Clark played the first game.
Only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole's getting ready to come back too. I guess this, look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on Sport.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Hope you had a great weekend and a great Father's Day yesterday. I'm Craig Mish back with you with our Monday morning edition of the show. Stay tuned because got some big news in the world of sports gaming. We'll get to it a little bit later, of course, and discuss it with Mike Mazzeo from Legal Sports Report. So stay on the grid for that. Of course, tonight we've got another game in the NBA Finals. We thought maybe it would be it last time that we talked, but we got at least one more. And we're going to have Matt Lutovsky on the show from Sporting News. Also, Coach Young weighs in. We'll go over some of the player props also in the NHL, as you know. Another game as well, a Game 5 headed back to South Florida. So extended series. We don't mind that in the NFL, in the NBA and NHL. That and a whole lot more on this edition of the show. But we do start off with this breaking news from the state of Florida less than an hour to go. A group called West Flagler that was challenging the Seminole Tribe of Florida's ability to be the exclusive provider of sports betting and even operate in sports betting has been denied. So the United States Supreme Court rejects the bid to eliminate the Seminole Tribe, and that means that the Seminole Tribe of Florida is going to have exclusive statewide control over legal sports betting through the year 2051. Again, the Seminole Tribe, they roll on with the Hard Rock app, and they roll on through at least 2051, so there will be no more petitions, no more challenging. This is the final ruling from the Supreme Court. Also, some very big news coming out of this as well, that in the year 2026, so still a couple of years to go under this legislation, that iGaming will be legal also in Florida as well. So that is a new wrinkle to this ruling. And also we'll get into the possibility now, for the first time we're hearing, that other states potentially will have legalization through their tribal entities like the state of California. So when Mike Mazzeo comes on the show a little bit later, those of you who live in California, stay tuned because you could have legal sports betting coming sooner than later. Meanwhile, over at the U.S. Open, congratulations is in order for Rory McIlroy, who once again failed. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. Was that bad that I did that to Rory McIlroy? Yeah, probably so. Yeah, it was Bryson DeChambeau that ended up winning the championship. I don't know. Why do I like, razzing Rory a little bit here? I don't know. Maybe because he chose not to speak to the media yesterday. I didn't like seeing that. So, sorry, Rory. I'm giving you a shot at the beginning of the show. Bryson DeChambeau played so well at the PGA Championship, wins his second U.S. Open, And, obviously was fantastic and, really played, I think, start to finish better than anybody in the tournament. As I mentioned earlier, one of the side stories to this, though, is shame on you, Rory McIlroy, after losing, really losing the U.S. Open, had a chance to win this, did not speak to the media, packed up his stuff, and left. So he's probably in line for a fine with the PGA Tour. Now, look, I've never been in the spot that Rory McIlroy has been, which is basically playing on a professional sports team, league, or even by myself and anywhere. So I can't imagine having that feeling of blowing another championship. But needless to say, you got to do your job at the end, and you got to just take the high road here, take some road here, as opposed to bailing on a lot of people who probably just wanted to hear what happened at the end. Either way, here's Bryson DeChambeau after winning another U.S. Open. Talked about that up and down on 18, which really was one of the keys to win, and of course the bunker shot that helped him as well. Also commented, by the way, on Rory McIlroy not winning.
I'm so happy I got that shot up and down on 18. Oh, man. I wanted to get this one done, especially at such a special place that means so much to me and SMU and my dad, what pain meant to him. 1000th USGA championship. I mean, just stack them on top. That bunker shot was the shot of my life. Rory's one of the best to ever play. And being able to fight against a great like that is pretty special. For him to miss that putt, I'd never wished it on anybody. It just happened to play out that way, and he'll win multiple more major championships. There's no doubt, and I think that fire in him is going to continue to grow. And I have nothing but respect for how he plays the game of golf, because, to be honest, when he was climbing up the leaderboard and he was 2 ahead, I was like, uh-oh. But luckily, things went my way today.
A little bit different than the PGA Championship when Xander ended up holding on to the end. McIlroy ends up blowing it. DeChambeau takes home the U.S. Open. Tonight in the NBA, the Boston Celtics are 6.5-point favorites to take the Larry O'Brien Trophy this evening. They were clobbered by Dallas on Friday night, 122-84. And so naturally, there's an opportunity now for Dallas to jump back into the series, but that would have to happen tonight. That's just basically the deal. They got to win tonight. Of course, they're eliminated. Jason Kidd yesterday talked about some of the adjustments that they have been making, and certainly the Boston Celtics are a team that knows exactly what they're doing up and down on the court.
Yeah, I thought they were really good in Game 4. That helped us get to Game 5, but just, understand we can't have 3 on the ball. They're too good of being able to make that pass, and they're the best team at shooting the 3. So there's some things that we can clean up, and that we're going to have to be better here in Game 5 if we want to win. They're not a team that changes. They're a team that makes you change, and so they're going to probably look to see that they had some good looks from 3 that didn't go down, and also, being able to probably, get Tatum and Brown going early. Having those two attack, our defense early is probably something that could be an adjustment. But for them, it's, shooting the 3, creating the 3, and then capitalizing on your mistakes. And hopefully, for us, our mistakes were low in Game 4, and hopefully they're low in Game 5.
We'll see if Kristaps Porzingis plays for the Celtics. Of course, he has been out for a period of time with a dislocation of the posterior tibialis tendon in his left leg. Naturally, Game 5, now a much bigger scenario. We'll see if Porzingis ends up playing tonight in the NBA. All right, Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever defeated Angel Reese in the Chicago Sky. Feels like every game we're not talking about the actual basketball, but fouls and pushes and everything else going on in the game. Caitlin Clark, 23 points, 91-83 the final. Joel Embiid says he's ready to play in the Olympics. He made an appearance during the pregame show saying that he is healthy enough to play in the upcoming Summer Olympics. Meanwhile, healthy enough to play is not going to be the case for Mookie Betts. He fractured his hand. Not going to need surgery, but he will miss some time. Who knows how long? He got hit in the hand with a fastball from Dan Altavilla during the 7th inning of Sunday's game against the Kansas City Royals. They also placed their young pitcher Yamamoto on the injured list as well. 9 stolen bases for the Boston Red Sox. They win yesterday 9-3 over the New York Yankees. How about the Mets? They're hot again. They swept the Padres. They're on a 5-game winning streak, back in the playoff picture. They won 11-6 yesterday. And Ronel Blanco, who was pitching a no-hitter again yesterday, was taken out of the game after 7 innings. Second pitcher in franchise history to have 2 starts with at least 7 hitless innings, joining Framber Valdez, who did that last year. All right, college baseball heating up in Omaha. It's the College World Series. Number 1 team in the country, Tennessee. They beat North Carolina 6-1 there. More games to be played today. T. Higgins ended up signing that franchise tag. He'll make $21.8 million for the upcoming season. He requested a trade and hasn't reported for any of their OTAs thus far. Chiefs defensive tackle Isaiah Buggs has been arrested on second-degree violence and burglary charges, second time in less than a month. He was arrested in Alabama, booked on second-degree domestic violence charges, and had been accused of animal cruelty in late May. And also the UFL had their championship game yesterday, in case you missed it, the United Football League, and Birmingham won again. This is the 25-0 win over San Antonio, and they ended up winning the champion in 2022, 23, 24. So Birmingham clearly the class of these alternate football leagues. All right, coming up next, Matt Lutovsky joins us. We'll talk about what the Dodgers will do. They have Yamamoto out, they have Mookie Betts out, and we'll also get into the latest tonight in the NBA. So stay with us here on the Grid on this Monday morning. We'll be back with more NewsWire right after these messages here on SportsGrid. Don't go away.
Crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but you know, the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
It'll be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball striking performance.
Yeah, you know, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogey, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
Welcome back to NewsWire. We'll get to the NBA Finals here in just a minute as Matt Lutovsky joins us here on this Monday. It is Game 5, of course, another deciding game, elimination game, if you will, this evening. But first, let's talk a little baseball here, just with the latest, because there's some big news from Los Angeles right now as Matt joins us. We've got a couple of injuries, one that seems potentially significant in Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who was placed on the injured list, also in Mookie Betts, who fractured his hand after getting hit by a pitch. Matt, the Yamamoto injury is significant in the sense that the Dodgers, clearly are going to hope that he's not out for the season, right? Like that's like the key here because they're already on a 6-man rotation. They simply can go back to 5. But given the amount of money that they paid to have Yamamoto pitch and the fact that Ohtani is not around to pitch until next year, you have to wonder if the Dodgers have a pivot in them come trade deadline.
Yeah, that's the question because, Mookie Betts, obviously he's the NL MVP frontrunner. So you lose that, there's no simply replacing it. And especially when you look at their options to come in and take over at short, it's going to be a massive drop off in offense. They're probably just going to move the top 4 one spot up in the order, but you're putting more pressure on them. But at the end of the day, he's going to be back. It's 6 to 8 weeks usually, unless there's some sort of setback. So he'll be back by playoff time. They have a big lead. They're going to make the playoffs. So that worry is the pitching because no matter how good your rotation is, and it's very good, and obviously they're hoping to get Clayton Kershaw here in the fold here, but you want as many high-quality arms as possible come the fall. And whether it's in a starting spot, whether it's in a relief spot, a couple innings here or there, you need that. You're always going to need that. Everything shortens up in the postseason. So that's the big injury. I think that's what they're going to be watching and everyone else is going to be watching. And you're right. Does this lead to some sort of move at the deadline? Or do they say, look, we're okay with what we have. Maybe we try to shore up the bullpen a little bit, do something like that. So a smaller move, but can be very effective as well. They're going to have some choices ahead of them depending on what the prognosis is.
Yeah, Betts, they haven't placed on the injured list yet, so not really sure how they'll manage that, but that doesn't really mean anything, as we know. Monday can come, the afternoon comes, Matt, and then all of a sudden, guy goes on the injured list. It happens there. All right, let's go to the NBA here, and let's talk about tonight's game. Now, the last time we spoke, I think we both thought that this was over. Dallas just hadn't played well in any game in the series. It's really hard to explain, honestly, what happened in the last game. So I guess, Matt, the question is you follow sports like I do, is can they take that blueprint and at the very least make this a close game tonight in Boston? I really don't have an explanation as to whether or not this was simply Dallas playing a lot better or, Boston played awful, obviously, too. I mean, we know that. But maybe Dallas figured something out to at least give us a close game tonight. I mean, maybe a win. I guess you never know.
Yeah, you never know, and I think a lot of it might come down to whether or not Porzingis actually plays. He was, technically active last game, but didn't play once the game got out of hand. Is that going to change tonight? I don't know. But you're right. Things did seem to go better for Dallas. I mean, besides the obvious on the scoreboard, but just in general with how they played. But I wonder how much of that was just Boston had one of those games. It didn't seem like they could do anything right. They couldn't get anything going. They were fumbling the ball, and it just felt like maybe there were some other things that they were already planning ahead to the post-game celebration or the victory parade. So being back at home, I think they're going to be a lot more comfortable. They're going to be a lot more focused. The one thing I think Dallas can look at and can give them some hope is that while Luka and Kyrie played well, they were a combined 1 of 14 from 3. Right. That's going to be better. Now, the question is, are all those role players, how much worse are they going to be? Specifically, someone like Tim Hardaway Jr., who really hadn't played leading up to that point. He shot 5 of 7 from 3. That might be something that they sort of use as a launching pad, get him in the rotation a little more, because he's one of those guys. When he's hot, he can really do damage, or he just might not play. It's not a blowout, and we're going to do what we've been doing most of the series. And, that's 15 points from last game that's out of the lineup. And we're relying on some of these role players who did not play well in Boston in the first 2 games. They've shortened up the rotation a little bit, it feels like, for Dallas. So, they're going to go down swinging. But there's no doubt Boston is the better team. Like you said, last time I talked to you, I thought it was 4 or 5, probably 4. So I'm going to stick with the 5, and we'll see if Boston can get back on track tonight.
Yeah, and interesting props, I think, for us to review here real quick. I don't know if you have any positions on any of these tonight. I'll take you through them here. Luka's points, 32.5. Rebounds, 8.5. Assists, 7.5. Kyrie Irving, 24.5. 3.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists. Those are the props there.
Yeah, well, they're definitely going to play a lot of minutes. I think if Dallas is, either way, it's an elimination game. They got to go all out with these guys. So, I mean, I do like Luka's points, even though Boston made it tough on them. So, I think his overs, just because of minutes played, give you a better chance to win. Certainly, Boston's defense is great, and if he's having a poor shooting night, though, you're going to regret that. So maybe you look at some of the non-scoring categories and say, okay, he's going to be playing a lot. He can get us over there. But I do think Luka's going to be pretty solid. Kyrie's the real tough one because he's just not played well in Boston. I mean, this dates back to, when he first left that team. And he's played better these last couple games, but I still would have a tough time trusting Kyrie in this spot in that stadium. So if I was going to take something with Kyrie, I think I would go with the over on the assist. But I don't think I'd feel great about taking any of his other overs given the way he's played in Boston.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because, as we know, the last time we saw Kyrie Irving in Boston, he put up the 5 fingers saying that I will be back for Game 5, and indeed that ended up being the case. So, Matt, we'll see what the Celtics fans have for him in store tonight in terms of fan lack of support. All right, thanks again for coming on, Matt. We'll catch up again soon. Thanks for being with us.
Appreciate it.
All right, Matt Lutovsky from Sporting News here with us on the show. As I mentioned, Kyrie Irving in the last game, in Boston, made it known that his team would be returning for a 5th game, and he will be tonight. So the question is, what does Kyrie have to say about now going back to Boston and the pressure that is involved with that? He'll weigh in next on the SportsGrid Sound Off. We'll also hear from Christian DeBlock with a preview. We'll go ahead.
When it comes to betting on sports, injuries matter, and Sports Injury Central has you covered all year long with expert injury analysis and injury-based picks for the NFL, NBA, and MLB. Our former pro sports doctors have unmatched experience to analyze every injury so you know the impact of the player, team, and their upcoming matchup. Whether it's articles, podcasts, player insights, or our patented injury scores, Sports Injury Central will help you keep up with your fantasy team and make more informed wagers. So make sure you follow Sports Injury Central and gain an edge at sixscore.com.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Is tonight the final game in the NBA? You know what? If it is, I'm okay with it. We got an extra game. I did not expect that this series would continue. By the way, I didn't expect that the NHL series would continue either, with Edmonton beating Florida 8-1. So tonight we have the NBA. tomorrow night we have the NHL. Would we be? I'm not rooting for Edmonton tomorrow because I'm in South Florida. I'm rooting for the Panthers. But is it possible that either of these two series we get another game? And which one is more likely than the other? I guess if you look at the odds, maybe it's more likely that Edmonton was to beat Florida, because I see minus 135 on FanDuel for Florida, which, isn't insurmountable. That's not what I'm rooting for, though, just to be clear. What I am rooting for is a good game tonight, and I think we're going to get one, because Kyrie Irving made that statement immediately after losing that second game in Boston, a place that he's quite familiar with, basically saying that he'd be back for game 5. He put up 5 fingers. Naturally, there's a ton of pressure playing in any city, in any professional sport, but even more so, according to Kyrie, playing in Boston. And he talked about that at shoot-around yesterday.
I think in order to silence even the self-doubt, let alone the crowd doubt, but the self-doubt when you make or miss shots, that's just as important as making sure that I'm leading the team in the right way and being human through this experience too, and telling them how I feel. I've had a few teammates be in this building with me on wins and losses, so I know what it feels like for both, but I try to pay attention to the positive things that got us wins here early in my career, and then also thinking about the things I can learn from throughout the performances that I've had here where I didn't play up to par. So it's just being honest about it, and then also breathing through the experience and having fun with it.
Still will be a comeback that feels insurmountable for the Mavericks, having to now win every game the rest of the way to win the championship, something that's never been done, which is the subject of our social media correspondent, Christian DeBlock. How will Dallas do the impossible?
At some point, a team will overcome a 3-0 deficit in the NBA playoffs. It may not be in this series, but history will eventually be made. If Dallas wants to take a second step towards history on the road, the others need to make open shots. It's plain and simple. Luka has delivered for the most part. Kyrie, besides Game 3, hasn't played anywhere near his best. The Mavericks will need an efficient game from Irving, plus double-digit scoring from one of P.J. Washington or Derrick Jones Jr. On the road, Washington is 1 for 8 from 3 in the series, and in Game 1, he was a minus 15 in 36 minutes. If he can add 15 efficient points to go along with good games from Kyrie and Luka, Dallas can extend the series with a win. Back to you, Craig.
All right, thanks, Christian. We'll see what happens tonight. Now, the one thing that the Celtics have shown in this edition of the NBA playoffs is they have not let the pressure get to them, which has happened in the past, including in that series last year against the Miami Heat. Jason Tatum, who is one of the favorites, although he is not the favorite to win the NBA Finals MVP, that now is Jaylen Brown, talked about the pressure of playing in front of those home fans in Boston.
I don't look at it as pressure. I do notice, especially this time of the season, playoff time, and obviously being in the finals for the second time, when you drive around and go to the gas station, or I went to go get some ice cream yesterday, it's Celtics gear everywhere, and everybody's super excited about this team and what we've accomplished and what we have the chance to accomplish. And you really just feel the love and support from everybody in the city of Boston, and how bad they want us to win, how much they've been cheering for us. So I don't look at it as pressure, just unconditional support, and that we have an amazing fan base here.
It's really something to see the fans show up and show out in Boston for some of these big games. I'm sure it'll happen again tonight for the Boston Celtics. All right, coming up next, groundbreaking news in the state of Florida as the Seminole tribe wins through the Supreme Court. They now will have the sole right to legal sports betting for a long period of time. But does this ruling mean forever? Does it really mean through 2051? We'll see if Mike Mazzeo can weigh in on some of these topics. Also, we'll discuss the latest in Major League Baseball. Stay with us here on NewsWire. This is SportsGrid every Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. We'll be back right after this. Don't go away.
crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but you know, the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
Be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball striking performance.
Yeah, you know, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogey, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. A landmark ruling today by the Supreme Court stating that the Seminole Tribe of Florida will continue to be able to operate sports betting as the sole operator in the state of Florida through 2051. So this West Flagler group that has been petitioning and filing and spending, as we bring in Mike Mazzeo, looks like it was all much ado about nothing. All this money that they spent, at least for the time being, looks like it was money poorly spent. Now, Mike, the only thing is that we don't know really where this money was coming from anyway from West Flagler. There's a lot of speculation on that, by the way, from other entities in the state, so to speak, that didn't want even gambling at all in Florida. But needless to say, the ruling does mean that the Hard Rock app's not going away anytime soon. And I think what was really more interesting for me to see some of the things that came out of it, which is iGaming in 2026. And even a potential framework for the state of California in the future as well. So once again, thanks for coming on the show to talk about this pretty big ruling today.
Yeah, Craig, thank you for having me. Like you said, a lot of legal experts we talked to leading up to this Supreme Court ruling had thought all along that West Flagler's petition was going to be denied, which was the case. We saw Justice Kavanaugh. He would have granted it. He had talked about that equal protection argument. So obviously that's what he would have gone on. Obviously, his contemporaries in the Supreme Court did not agree. And so this West Flagler challenge, which has been, years, months, feels like forever, is coming to an end. Perhaps they find another route to try to challenge it. But for now, this 30-year Seminole Compact through 2051 is in place. And so, if you're in Florida, which you are, Craig, you can make that online sports bet through your phone, and then it goes through servers that are based in tribal land. That was the challenge by West Flagler. That's now over, so Hard Rock has this monopoly on Florida sports betting through 2051. What's next in terms of potentially adding more operators? We talked to Jim Allen, I believe in April in Atlantic City, and his sentiment was, I haven't said no to FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, and MGM potentially joining the market. Could there be some sort of revenue sharing agreement, which is obviously what the Seminoles have with the state, and what like a state like New York, 51% you pay to the state government. Would you pay the Seminoles, a certain portion of your revenue? That certainly could be the case in Florida here. So we'll see what happens. Like you said, is iGaming coming? Are there other states that could jump in on this? We haven't done enough reporting on California. Certainly that does make sense. We'll kind of see what stakeholders and tribes have to say about that, Craig. I think that's like you said, that's the next step is can other states use this framework for online gaming or sports betting?
Yeah, I think what's fascinating is that my guess is you're going to hear that FanDuel and DraftKings are not interested in paying any fee to the Seminole tribe because they want to have their own involvement in it. And then all of a sudden, Mike, I have a feeling someone is going to end up paying the tribe. I don't know what that percentage is going to be. And boy, will that be a precedent for all these other states that are looking at the tax rate as to what they end up paying. So a slippery slope, I think, for the future there. But needless to say, for Florida, and for people who like to bet on sports, you have legalized sports betting. That is good news. That will continue. All right, Major League Baseball last week announced that one of their umpires, and by the way, a very good one, Pat Hoberg, is appealing a discipline issue for violating a betting policy that happened during spring training. Now, I don't know more than you do, just to be clear on this, Mike, but what I saw in the release was appealing a discipline, and it wasn't specific here. So to me, using that word as opposed to like a suspension or a fine or anything else tells me that this potentially was very minor. But I suppose Hoberg just wants his name cleared completely of this. Is there any more color that you can add to what you see? I mean, this is reading between the lines a little bit to figure out exactly what's going on.
Yeah, Craig, I think the one thing that they didn't say was that he did not bet on baseball, right? That kind of was the one thing that was not in this release. It seemed like the games he umpired, he did so with the utmost integrity. As you know, Craig, Pat Hoberg is the umpire that called a perfect game. The umpires, home plate umpires version of a perfect game in the 2022 World Series did miss a ball or strike call the entire game, which in this age with the robo umps and the tracker is almost unfathomable, given we saw Angel Hernandez, all these other umps that always get grief, understandably, for missing calls. Here's one of the best umpires in the game, potentially being in trouble. Like you said, we don't exactly know what he did. You hope it's not a Shane Pinto situation where the NHL suspended him for 41 games, and we still don't know what he did. So, like you said, more to come here on Pat Hoberg, but clearly in baseball, it feels like we're flying a little too close to the sun. We've had Shohei Ohtani's interpreter. We've had David Fletcher being investigated for using that same illegal bookmaker, a minor league player now, was a former major league player. The 4 minor league players, the San Diego Padres, Pittsburgh Pirates infielder that was suspended for life. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. Again, these leagues want to talk about integrity all the time, but they're taking sportsbook partnership money, and all these things just add up to where this industry doesn't want to go, obviously, which is like federal oversight or, the industry just totally shutting down because, if you go to the point where there's a team-wide, trying to throw games or something to that extent, or a star player. We have seen Calvin Ridley in the NFL, but, something to Shohei Ohtani's extent they can't afford. Yeah, the NBA is fine, perhaps, if Jonte Porter receives a lifetime ban, a reserve player, but, you get a key starter, an all-star involved, and that's where things change. So, yeah, I mean, it's just something where the education needs to continue. We know all these coaches, players, staffers are getting education, and, unfortunately, you have thousands of staffers, and you only need one to go the wrong way, and the whole industry looks bad, and then you have to deal with the narrative that you no longer can control. And I think for all these sports leagues, they can't control it anymore, and you see the major networks, outlets writing about this stuff, and none of it's good.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a story that continues because this keeps happening, and we keep even the small stories continue to happen in baseball, and so you just hope that there's not a larger one that's legitimate out there. All right, now a story of the bizarre on our show today here, and I hate to say it like this, but unsurprisingly, involves Bernie Kosar. Bernie's been through it through the years. So here's one. So Bernie is saying, now, why do I say Bernie? Bernie, of course, from South Florida, played for the Hurricanes, played for the Dolphins, very familiar with Bernie. Filing a lawsuit that says that he was forced to place a bet, $19,000 of his own money by the Big Play Network. And because he did that, the Browns organization let him go from doing their broadcasts or pre and post or whatever he was doing, a couple $100,000. I'm going to need you to siphon this through here a little bit here, Mike, because it seems to me, I mean, gosh, Bernie, I hate to say it, that if you feel like you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, you could probably not do it. And by the way, with your own money, this is a crazy one here, Mike. You're going to have to tell me what happened here.
Yeah, Craig. So at the time he placed this bet, and the NFL, personnel cannot bet, and I think he thought he was a contractor, so maybe he could. He apologized at the time, said if I had won this money, it was all going to charity anyway. Now all of a sudden, wants to get $850,000 from this big play network in this civil suit. And we'll see here. I mean, he basically said as part of his contract with Big Play, he could make this bet and he wouldn't lose any money if the bet lost. Then all of a sudden, the Big Play executive said you have to bet. You have to bet with your own money as part of your contract. So he did it out of goodwill. His bet lost. I think the Browns shockingly lost to the Steelers, I believe it was. And so he was out the $19,000, and he's seeking, like you said, his $200,000 radio job, which he ended up losing as a result of this. They pulled him right off the air after the bet. And again, you can't make the same mistake as Bernie here. You can't bet if you're working for a team in radio, television. You can't bet, right? So we'll see what comes of this, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, but by the way, if you think that there's a chance that this could happen, you just don't do it, right? Like you just say no, right? Like you take it to another level. I don't know. Real quick, we got about a minute to go. Charlie Baker, the head of the NCAA, with some comments on sports betting, wishing it stayed in Las Vegas. But this is going to be on deaf ears at this point, no?
Yeah, I think he was governor of Massachusetts when it passed, was getting tax revenue. Now he's not getting tax revenue. There's no sponsorship deals with the NCAA after a senator stopped that. So yeah, I mean, I think there's money to be in one place and not money in the other place.
Fair enough, Mike. Thanks for coming on.
Crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
Be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball striking performance.
Yeah, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogey, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
Welcome back to NewsWire. It's all on the line again tonight for the Boston Celtics, but really more so for the Dallas Mavericks as they get ready to play this evening. Interesting comments made by one of the players on the Celtics, Sam Hauser, going into this big game tonight, essentially saying that even if they don't win, there's still another game to play.
Yeah, I mean, it would be awesome to get it done. It'd be great. I mean, if we do lose, it's not like it's the end of the world. We would still be up 3-2, but obviously, doing it at home would be pretty special.
Yeah, it would be, but I would tell you, Sam, you don't want to lose this one. This is the one where things get a little dangerous. So some pressure turning back a little bit toward Boston. No question. If Dallas wins the next one, all the pressure will be on Boston. Let's put the pressure on Coach Young, who joins us now, to see if he has any positions on tonight's game. And Coach, good for the Mavericks. They played great in the last game. The Celtics played terrible in the last game. I don't envision that happening more than one more time in this series, but I guess the question is, could it happen again tonight?
Craig, great to be on with you as always. I think when you look at game number 4, let's be honest. Luka and Kyrie finally showed up and played together and played well together, even though if you're Dallas, you could say they also shot a combined 1 of 14 from three-point land. Luka and Kyrie, 22 points in the first quarter, really spearheaded that team. But to me, it kind of goes back to what we talked about on Friday. I don't think people realize really the impact of not having Kristaps Porzingis available for Boston. This is a guy that can shoot the ball 30 feet out. This is a guy that's also your best rim protector. So when you look at it from the offensive side of Boston, the ability to stretch him out also creates driving lanes because a guy like Derek Lively can't, obviously protect the paint. Now, I know Al Horford can shoot a little bit, but he's not Porzingis, right? But then on the flip side, you look at Boston defensively, right? The ability to have, when you guard Luka and Kyrie, get up into their space, make them punch the gap, and now you have a 7-3, shot blocker that blocked 2.5 shots per game and altered and made you think about so many countless others. It changes the dynamic, right? So if Boston does not have Kristaps Porzingis, obviously lines are out -6.5 for the Celtics. If they don't have Porzingis, right, and Luka and Kyrie duplicate what they did or somewhat close, or at least shoot the ball better from 3, there's a chance. There's also this, folks. Dallas has been getting killed at the three-point line. We're talking about 20, 30-plus points in the negative that Dallas is getting at the three-point line. The ultimate equalizer in the NBA. Used to be the dunk in someone's face in the 80s and 90s. Now it's a three-point shot. Game 4, Dallas was +3. So if they're winning the inside game and they can keep the outside game, the three-point game equal, that bodes really well for Dallas to steal Game 5 tonight.
Well, we'll see. 6.5 is the point spread right now. Total 209.5. And for those of you who bet on the game, you may want to take a look at the props because this could be your final opportunity to do so. Jason Tatum, his points prop coach, 26.5 points, followed by 9.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists. Jaylen Brown, 24.5, 6.5, and 3.5. Boy, these odds are fantastic. It feels like they're doing a good job here setting these props because I look at them and it's like, this is basically what I think these guys are going to do tonight. Do you like any positions here?
Well, I would do this. I would play first quarter. That's what I thought about, and I did in game number 4. And I looked at Jason Tatum's first quarter points over. It's at 7.5 at FanDuel right now at plus money, I do believe, a little while ago. This is a Jason Tatum that I think was really poor in games 1 and games 2. Started out well in game 4. I didn't have to play a ton because obviously the blowout, but also started out well in game number 3. He's going to be better tonight. So I do like Jason Tatum to go over his points prop of 7.5 in the first quarter. On the flip side, looking to Dallas, Kyrie and Luka to go over their points prop. I think Luka's points prop in the first quarter, I think, is 9.5 at -130, and Kyrie Irving at over 4.5 at -140. So when you look at these two guys, Kyrie Irving's points prop was at 4.5 for game 3, went over. Went to 5.5 plus money. Game 4 had 9 points in the first quarter. Now they brought it back to 4.5 because of he has not played well. And if I think that Dallas is going to have a chance tonight, those two have to play well. And Craig, they have to play well from the jump. And here's what people need to realize. When you bet on props, especially in the first quarter, you look at, unless there's 2 fouls, Luka and Kyrie are going to get anywhere between 9 to 12 minutes of playing time. That's a lot of time for those two to get buckets. I like them to go over their points prop as well.
All right. Well, I don't think anybody would even consider taking anyone on Dallas to win the Finals MVP right now. I mean, you really have to have a lot of faith that history can happen, which has never happened before. Is there any chance Tatum steals the MVP tonight? Because basically that's what we would be looking at.
Craig, I would tell people to bet Tatum to take this. This was Jalen Brown at minus 270 earlier in the weekend. It has moved down 50 cents because of the fact that money is coming in on Jason Tatum. Simply put, Jason Tatum has out-rebounded him. Jason Tatum has out-assisted him. The only thing he's done, and he actually outscored him, the only thing he hasn't done is actually his shooting percentage. But I would say this. If Boston's going to win, I expect Jason Tatum to have a big game. Look at the props, folks. Points prop, rebound prop, assist prop. Across the board, Jason Tatum is higher. And this is the prodigal son. This is supposed to be the next man up. This was the next Mamba we were talking about. So to me, plus 220, I like it. If they win tonight, I think Jason Tatum has a big game. I think he has a double-double, damn near close to a triple-double. Jason Tatum, plus 220, winning the MVP.
All right, Coach, before you go, is this it? Is tonight the final game of the NBA Finals, yes or no?
After all I just said to you about that, about Jason Tatum, all that stuff, plus 220, Greg, I think I may see you another day. I think Dallas steals this and gets it back to Dallas, and then Boston closes it out in 6 games.
Interesting. All right, Coach, we will see. Thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll see if it's the last one.
Greg. Thank you.
All right, Coach Young with us. You'll see him, of course, throughout the SportsGrid network for El Coast to Coast, 3 o'clock Eastern. All right, coming up next, it's time for us to wrap things up. So make sure you stay with us here on the grid. Last licks coming up on NewsWire.
Crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but you know, the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
Be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball striking performance.
Yeah, you know, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogey, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Some fun events over the weekend in case you missed it, including Snoop Dogg showing up to a Major League Baseball game. We'll get to that and a whole lot more as we wrap up the show. It's time now for some last licks. Yes, it's time to start off with Caitlin Clark, the story and gift that keeps on giving. Every single day there's a new story here, and it's almost never about Caitlin Clark's play. It's always about her getting hit in the head or a fight or a push or so. I mean, my God, what is going on in the WNBA this year? So much drama. Anyway, we won't do the drama. What we'll do is we'll tell you that Caitlin Clark became the fastest player in the league to record 200 points, 75 rebounds, 75 assists in 15 games. Previous record was 16 games held by Shannon Johnson in 2016. Now, a couple of notes here to add. First of all, it's really nice that Caitlin Clark is playing better and the team is playing better because, again, that just means that the WNBA becomes more relevant for people. Now, whether or not some of the side story stuff is more interesting, I'll leave that for you. But those of you who are on social media, you will learn that it is far more interesting to people with everything that's been going on with her in the WNBA. Every single time, it feels like we mention her name. It's like the top story in sports. So here we are yet again. All right, in Major League Baseball yesterday, one of the icons all the time from hip-hop, rap, Snoop Dogg, who is no stranger to sports and, of course, has been on different documentaries and has coached and also is the sponsor of one of the upcoming bowl games later this year. He's performing at a casino in Milwaukee coming up on Saturday night. So Snoop Dogg on Saturday decided to show up to the game between the Brewers and the Reds. He threw out the first pitch in the game. In fact, they told one of the players who was a big Snoop Dogg fan that he could not catch his first pitch, and they got him all nervous, and then they pulled a prank on him, and then Snoop Dogg pulled him over and let him throw, which is really cool. But his commentary during the game was a lot of fun. In fact, that there was a play, unfortunately we can't show it because of rights, that the shortstop of the Reds, Ellie De La Cruz, Snoop was like, oh, there's a hit to the shortstop, and Snoop was like, there's no chance he's getting that guy out, and then Ellie De La Cruz threw him out, not knowing really who he was, and again, why would he? And he ended up throwing him out, and so Snoop went crazy there. Also went in the clubhouse before the game, and there's a lot of pictures from it, signed autographs, everybody else. I mean, he's just a very likable guy. I mean, in the history of rap and hip hop, when you think about it, for people who were still around, and the fact that Snoop Dogg, while he still makes new music, is not as relevant in that arena as he was, let's say, 15, 20 years ago. It's a really nice story to see him doing this and, performing in Milwaukee. I actually saw him perform in South Florida as well. I want to say it was like 3-4 years ago. Saw him, by the way, guess where? At the Hard Rock Seminar, the same place as the sports betting. All right, finally, let's get to it here. Our final discussion, final time I'm going to hit on this, folks. This is it. And I wonder if it's it for good. I'm just being honest. Was that the last game of the alternate football league that we'll ever see last night? Oh my gosh. Birmingham won again. They beat a team called San Antonio Brahmas in Sunday's UFL championship. Remember, it was the USFL and the XFL and then the UFL. So Birmingham is clearly the class of these alternate leagues. But there's definitely some chatter that this could have been it. This could have been the final time that they roll these alternate football leagues back. I know I've, crapped all over these leagues in the past and I didn't watch 1 second of any game that these teams played, any of them this year. And I know we want to make this a thing so badly. We want to make another football league a thing so badly. But I think that people are just so engaged during the regular season of college and professional football every single week. I got news for you. We need the break. we do. We need, maybe not an 8-month break, but we need the break when football is over to get back to our families and leaving Saturdays open and leaving Sundays open and Thursday nights open. We don't need another football league. The only reason why we need it is to give these kids an opportunity as a minor league football to get to the major leagues, which is the NFL. But folks, we're paying kids in college football now. I mean, isn't that essentially another alternate NFL league at this point? I hate to say it, but it's just what it is. Is this the last game ever for the USFL, UFL, XFL, etc.? I don't know the answer, but I guess we'll find out in a few months. That will do it for our show today. Thanks again to our guests who came on the show, including Mike Mazzeo from Legal Sports Report, Coach Young, and Matt Lutovsky. For my associate producer, Frank, and producer Michael, I'm Craig Mish. We've got the early line coming up next, followed by Scott Farrell, Coast to Coast at 3 o'clock Eastern. Game time decisions and in-game live, followed by Gabe and Sports Rage tonight. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday. I'll see you back here tomorrow for a preview of Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals right here on NewsWire. Have a great day.